What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Blue House Fitness Podcast. I'm Anton Farrow, and today we are starting our series on concurrent training and CrossFit and why that really matters. We thought we would start with what is concurrent training. This is a term most people have not heard of, and there's been a lot of research on it. And so let's just start with what it is. Concurrent training is combining two modalities at the same time, training strength and training conditioning in one program. It's a very efficient way of training. You integrate both. It can also be really fun. So that's why some people love CrossFit, because in a lot of ways, that's kind of what you do. You put weightlifting and a rower together, and you get these really fun workouts and sessions. That is concurrent training. But there's also a consideration in the research that talks about the interference effect. If you combine strength and conditioning together constantly, you will only get more conditioned and you will plateau in your strength. For some reason, you cannot do these things together. I think from clinical work, all the work I've done on the floor for a decade, I see people plateau all the time from the interference effect. So let's talk quickly about what is CrossFit. Well, CrossFit is defined as constantly varied functional movement at high intensity. Basically, it is concurrent training. That's what it is. It's constantly varied movements that are put together, done at a high pace, so conditioning is prioritized. And so people get very, very, very conditioned doing a CrossFit program, but their results from it are pretty much based on how strong they were coming into it. So I've seen people do quite well in the sport of CrossFit, but if we really get down to it, they were strong when they started. So they kind of stayed at their strength level and didn't increase it much. You do see some people improve in their Olympic lifting, but most of that is skill-based. They do have a basic strong squat and hinge and press. How do we improve in CrossFit if it is concurrent training? That's the big thing that we are saying is not being done in most gyms, in most affiliates. And it's something that we've been exploring and seeing very good results with. I think it comes down to the difference between competing and training. One thing I've noticed in CrossFit that is interesting is that we tend to just compete all the time. So to get better at Metcons or workouts of the day, WODs, we just continue to do more WODs, okay? So if you want to get better at a workout like Fran, 21, 15, 9 thrusters and pull-ups, the program would say, well, just do Fran and you'll get better. Or just do all this other random stuff and it will eventually make your Fran time better. We do see people get better to a point. There's definitely a plateau involved, and it's clearly because of concurrent training. What if we started treating training and competing differently? What if we actually trained instead of competed in CrossFit every day? And what that means is we need to stop training concurrently. What does it look like for us to not come in and just do a workout of the day? Well, it looks like this, and here's how I'd break it down. We have to create priorities for every single client that walks in the door based on their weaknesses. We also need a baseline. A baseline would be, what is the ideal athlete that we're trying to turn into, just like any other sport. We have to train those weaknesses very specifically to get better. It doesn't just happen. Especially the better you get, the more intense this gets. It gets more and more narrow. More and more, as you progress, you need to train concurrently even less. Let's just take the example of, what if you are not strong enough? What if that is your weakness? You're really conditioned, you're a great runner, let's just say, but you can't really squat much. The only way for you to get better at this is for you to focus specifically on lifting for your training, and we need to stop doing conditioning so that we lower your fatigue enough so that you can really focus and put in the effort in your lifting. And so here are a couple best practices for us that we've seen work really well. If you need to get stronger and you need priorities and you can't train concurrently because it doesn't work, as we've talked about, you need to train fresh and fed. So if strength is your goal, you need to eat, and you need to train first. Your first thing you do in the morning is not a 45-minute jog. It's lifting, squatting, pressing, hinging, okay? If you do conditioning, we need to limit it to 1 or 2 times a week. If it's high intensity, we should keep it under 10 minutes. If it's zone 2, we want to keep it under 45 minutes. It's a great best practice. We need to repeat the lifts over and over again. Every single week, you should do the same things, the same days, at least for 4 months. And then we should retest, and that's the only way we're going to know if you're getting better. Best practice for your lifts, and this is just a baseline. We need to know more about each athlete to know what they should be doing, but we should probably be squatting twice, heavy, deadlifting once, pressing 3 times, so bench pressing 3 times as a baseline, probably in the 5 to 10 rep range. That's the best place where we're going to gain strength, but also gain hypertrophy, and we'll adjust this based on the athlete. This is just an overview to get started, but this is how to get better as a CrossFit athlete. If you want to get better, we need to stop training concurrently. We need to train with priorities. If we do that, I promise you, you will see your gains soar, okay? And we've seen it ourselves. So my big argument is that we start to differentiate between competing and training. We need to train differently, which means training not concurrently, and then that will help us be better to compete in the sport of CrossFit.